An invitation, are you ready? Good morning from Yellow Branch Baptist Church. Glad to see you all out there in YouTube land. All right, let's see what we got here. All right, last week we talked about a lesson in humility. A lesson in humility. Self-exaltation will debase you, will bring you down. And humility will exalt and dignify you. And the last point was humility is serving the deprived who cannot repay. And we always have our family and friends over to our house, but do we take in a homeless stranger and give him a meal into our home? That's what we talked about last week. Now, how many of you have been to a wedding? And of course, if you're married, I hope you have been. Yes. And what do you do when we're getting ready to go to a wedding? Well, when the invitations go out, they usually give you 2 invitations, correct, nowadays, right? What's the first one called that they give you? Save the date. So they send that out. And of course, COVID kind of messed things up there. And dates had to be changed and everything else. And you only had so many people there. But anyway, you get to save the date. So what do? You take that and you give them an RSVP that you're planning on attending. Then what do? Is you go over to your beautiful calendar and you put it down on there when the date is. Because like me, if you don't put it on 5 different things, you're going to forget. I've got it on my phone. I got it on my calendar on my desk. I got it on my calendar I carry with me. I have to do the same thing with my PT appointments and everything too. So hopefully, and I still mess it up. I still go the wrong time when they change up on my times. But after that, what's the next step? When you get the second invitation and you're about going, the next thing is we got to get ready, right? And so if it's a wedding or if it's a birthday or if it's a graduation, what do we have to do? Well, one, you have to go to the store, right? Usually pick up a card. Nowadays, the big gift cards are the big one because who knows what people like anymore. But you get a gift, and then you might want to buy yourself a new suit, new dress, new shoes, looking spiffy, right? Looking good, right? You gotta look good. Then what do we do then? Before, like say a week or so before, we want to get a haircut, right? Or our hair done. Or both, haircut and done. Then before the day of, what do? We take a shower, right? Take a shower, get cleaned up, shave, and whatever you do, and then you brush your chops, and then you're ready to go. And so there's a process in getting ready to do these things. And today we're going to talk about Jesus gives a parable of the great banquet from verses 15 through 24. And an invitation has been sent. And the Jews always did 2 invitations also. We'll get into that. But have you accepted the invitation from Christ? And are you ready? Because the invitation has been sent. And we see that in Revelation 19:9. Then he said to me, "Write, blessed are those who are invited to the marriage supper of the Lamb." And he said to me, "These are true words of God." So let's take a look. Let's read 15 through 24. Now, when one of those who sat at the table with him heard these things, he said to him, Blessed are he who shall eat bread in the kingdom of God. Then he said to him, A certain man gave a great supper and invited many, and sent his servant at supper time to say to those who were invited, Come, for all things are now ready. But they all, with one accord, began to make excuses. The first said to him, I have bought a piece of ground, and I must go and see it. I ask you to have me excused. And another says, I have bought 5 yokes of oxen, and I'm going to test them. I ask to have me excused. Still another says, I have married a wife, and therefore I cannot come. So that servant came and reported these things to his master. Then the master of the house, being angry, said to his servant, Go out quickly into the streets and lanes of the city and bring in here the poor and the maimed and the lame and the blind. And the servant says, Master, it is done as you commanded, and still there is room. Then the master said to the servant, Go out into the highways and the hedges and compel them to come in that house, and my house may be filled. For I say to you that none of those men who were invited shall taste my supper. And so we see here that Jesus is still at the Pharisees' dinner. And they're sitting around, and he finished in what we talked about last week on being humble. And he finished in verse 14, and you will be blessed because they cannot repay you, and you shall be repaid at the resurrection of the just. And the man just stood up and he says, that blessed is he who shall eat bread in the kingdom of God. And he just broke out in this praise. What this Pharisee was talking about was the Jewish picture of the Messianic feast. The feast was to be given by God for his people when he set up his kingdom on the earth. This Pharisee saw him and the Jewish nation only. They're going to be the only ones there. That's how the Jews believed. That it was only the Jews that were going to partake in this. And Jesus knew the Pharisee's heart. Jesus knew what the Pharisee was thinking. And he had to correct him on this matter. So he gave a parable. And he says, there is going to be a great banquet given by God. And basically, you are correct here. But the Jews are not the only ones that are going to be there. The Gentiles, the poor, the broken will be there also. It's an invitation to all who will accept. Who will accept. And the Jewish custom was that they give out 2 invitations. The one, because back in those days, it took a while to prepare. They didn't have all this stuff, just like today. Okay, we have